Hello, and welcome back to Lunch and Learn, the Leeds video podcast, where we take an in-depth look at the art scene here in Lincoln and the arts industry as a whole. Today, Rob Rokicki and Anna K. Jacobs will join us to discuss their collaboration with University of Nebraska-Lincoln students to film the new movie musical, The talent to create a revolutionary opportunity for our students. We'll be chatting with the duo about their experiences putting together the film, the energetic and heartwarming tale, and what's next before the silver screen. I'm Ryan Savage, an education and outreach specialist here at the LEAD, and here with me to discuss is the LEAD Education and Community Engagement Director, Jane Shermer Hansen. Hi, Jane.
Good afternoon, Ryan. How are you?
I am doing well. I'm super excited for Rob and Anna, and I'm excited for you guys to meet them as well. But before they join us, I'd like to share a bit of their work. They sent us some Sizzle Reels, which is basically a sample of their writing, so y'all can get a sneak peek at some of the sounds that they like to work with and the kinds of things that they've done in the past. The first video you guys will see is Rob's, and the second is Anna's, so sit back and enjoy.
There's gonna be a fight. There still might be a war. For the moment we've got danger on the run.
And things will get bad before they will get better. It may feel like an ending, but the battle's just begun.
Are we ever gonna once have it easy?
Oh, feeling ready.
Feeling stoked.
Feeling queasy.
We could fail, but we have to try.
Don't feel bad, cause we're usually about to die. Bring on the monsters! Bring on the monsters! Bring on the real world! Bring on the monsters! Bring on the real world! Bring on the real world! Bring on the real world! And I'll be back next summer, you'll see me again. I'll be back next summer, I'll survive till then. I'll be back next summer, you'll see me again. I'll be back next summer, I'll be back next summer, I'll be back next summer. I'll be back next summer, I'll be back next summer, I'll be back next summer, I'll be back next summer.
She loses herself in the silvery neon light and boogies on until the stroke of midnight, because the dance floor makes Cindy feel right.
No one heard any noise. No one plugged up their ears. No one called in the boys. No one blinked away tears. No one fell to their knees. No one offered up prayers. It's just a picture of a thing, and everybody stares and stares and stares.
They see their maiden heads as nothing but a burden, but to us it's such a precious, precious gift. A precious gift, not solely for a husband. A precious gift that comes wrapped in a bow. A precious gift, no returns or exchanges. A precious gift that only he and he should know.
That's how it feels to be a hero. Oh, oh, a hero. Oh, oh. Your sword and your armor keep you all safe and sound. That's how it feels to be a hero. Oh, oh, a hero. Oh, oh. Nothing on earth can ever knock you around.
I bring the snacks. It's not his fault, he didn't know, and cupcakes make a real good show. But before you touch that plate, let's just get this one thing straight. I bring the snacks. I bring the snacks. He brings the snacks.
Man, I'm hungry. I want snacks.
I know. I was just thinking. I was just like, oh man. I was like, Ryan brings the snack.
I know. I know. Yes, Jane is like, Ryan is always eating during meetings, but in my defense, I did do that both in person before COVID and over Zoom. So
that is true. That's fair.
The expectation was fair. I was gonna say I won't postulate about like the music and everything since we're gonna have our friends here pretty soon. But if you are this is the first time I'm using these wired headphones during one of this, so might, slap them around a bit. But if you're a young adult fiction lover like myself, and with The Lightning Thief, if you did continue on to the Heroes of Olympus story, which is like the sequel series by Rick Riordan, the Omaha, Nebraska does make an appearance. So you should definitely give those a read and then see the musical. And, I'm super excited because we do have Rob and Anna joining us live today, and I'm looking forward to hearing about their past projects and their new project, the Real Gemma Jordan. And it looks like we should have them here soon. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I know I didn't prompt you guys with this, but do you want to start with a little, some of the highlights from what you guys sent us from Lightning Thief, Pop, and there's so much work that in your Real Anna. So I'd love to hear anything that you guys want to highlight from there.
Go right ahead, Anna.
Anna's on the spot.
Thanks for putting me on the spot, Rob. Yeah. I think some of the shows you probably saw clips from. So you saw something from a movie musical that I wrote the music and lyrics for called Kai, Taste of Paradise. Okay. You saw something from the musical Pop, which is about Andy Warhol, and Anthony Rapp played Andy Warhol in the production that we did in Pittsburgh.
Very cool.
You saw something from the musical Teeth. That is a project that is currently in development. I wrote that with Michael R. Jackson, who won the Pulitzer Prize for this most recent cycle for his musical Strange Loop. You saw something from the musical Anytown that I wrote music and lyrics for, which was commissioned by George Street Playhouse, which is a theater here. I'm in Brooklyn. Why am I saying here? over the Hudson in New Jersey. That was commissioned. It's kind of a TYO show, and it was commissioned in order to combat the opioid abuse epidemic that's going on, particularly affecting teens in that region, but also around the country. And that's been touring for a couple of years. And what else was there? Oh, I Bring the Snacks. That's from a musical I wrote called Harmony, Kansas, about a gay men's a cappella group that forms in the middle of western rural Kansas. And that had a production in San Diego a while back.
I need to see this show. Gay men, rural, Midwest, snacks.
I'm glad it brings together all your passions, right?
Yes, those truly are my passions. Well, that is so exciting. When we first met, I had, Lauren, who is working on the Real Gemma Jordan with you guys in some capacity. She introduced me to, and I was familiar with The Lightning Thief, not so much with Rob, but I loved learning about all your guys' work, and really seeing the diversity of work that you guys have put out there. So thank you so much, Anna. I'm so excited that you're here. And Rob, was there anything that you wanted to touch on from The Lightning Thief or anything?
No, I mean, obviously, The Lightning Thief is a show that, has taken over my life for the last almost decade, but I've written many other musicals, so it's not the only show I've written. But yeah, I've read a lot of different capacities, from films and albums, concept albums, things like that. I wrote a graphic novel comic book musical called Monstersongs. It just got licensed. That was at NAMT, the National Alliance of Musical Theater, where I saw Teeth, which was amazing. And yeah, just lots of different projects. I'm currently working with Sarah Beth Pfeiffer who is in Lightning Thief on a musical about cults, and we're about to release some music from that coming out, which I'm really
very
excited
relevant.
about. Yeah, it's a weird sci-fi, show. So yeah, lots of I like to play with genre. So I've written a lot of shows that deal with kind of fantasy, horror, sci-fi elements to them, kind of real people in extraordinary situations and those kinds of things.
Awesome. Well, I feel like we are we're all real people, and this has been an extraordinary situation, continues to be an extraordinary situation the past year. So how did y'all start working together on this project, the Real Gemma Jordan?
I'll jump in. I think another writer friend of mine, a wonderful writer named Adam Guan, suggested that I reach out to UNL because they were looking for writers, and when Lisa reached out to me, I said I'll only do it if I can work with a writer that I really want to work with. And so I immediately thought of Anna, and I was like, yeah, I'll do the project if I can work with Anna. And we both write music and lyrics and book, and but I think because I love Anna's just like her storytelling and her sensibility, I was just like I wanted to bring her on as a book writer in this capacity, and so yeah, that's how we met. We had never worked together before this.
Very cool.
Wow.
And hopefully
Anna,
we'll work
do you have
together
anything?
since, unless she's like
Anna's
never
like,
will again.
Anna's like, Rob can hop on this one because he wanted to work with me. However, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's been such a great collaboration. Like I knew Rob's work before I really knew Rob, and I loved Rob's work. And something that I think Rob does so, like, we come from quite different backgrounds. I come from a very classical music background. That's how I came to theater. I didn't even I was not like a theater kid. Like, he acts. I'm like afraid of actors, but really obsessed with actors. I came to musical theater as like somebody in their mid-20s who'd studied classical composition for a long time, but had this like secret desire to write musicals, but thought that people were like Leonard Bernstein, like they like wrote symphonies and they wrote, operas, and then like maybe they like did a West Side Story on the side. And it took me a long time to find my way into this field from Australia. And so, somebody like Rob, I really didn't know somebody like Rob when I was, enjoying musical theater, but like, I just love the type of music that he makes. And he's got this like incredible, very authentic pop rock sensibility that kind of speaks to all the reasons why I wound up in theater as somebody who loves like contemporary characters and contemporary stories, or like music that has like real energy and groove and like does things to your body. And like I've learned so much just from partnering with him on this project. We kind of have like complementary but like opposite brains, and I've noticed like in my other projects I'm starting to approach things a little differently because of conversations we've had as we've been figuring out how to put our work together.
Awesome. Well, you guys both, I noticed you guys both talked about how you knew each other's music before you knew each other, and how you loved that part. And so I'm just interested, do you feel like you get a sense of who a person is through their writing on a different sense, like, of course, like audience members, we go watch shows and we have an idea of who Lin-Manuel Miranda is, but do you like, did it match what you thought of their music? Did it match the other person's personality, character?
I would say a little bit, yeah. I mean, like, Anna's incredibly funny, and I think like there is the wit that she has in her characters and her music. It's that matches right, but the kind of whip smartness of it, and she's very in talking about groove too. Like, her songs have a really great pocket. I've always like loved the groove to her songs, and that's a.
Are you a good dancer then, Anna?
No, I find that I don't love a lot of contemporary musical theater for kind of its squareness in some way, or it's trying to adhere to a kind of a aesthetics that I feel are a little outdated. And that doesn't have anything to do with necessarily the form, or it's a little bit, but more of just kind of certain things that you see, like musically, that are just kind of done to death a bit. And so when you hear somebody that you think, oh wow, that feels fresh, that feels fun, that feels original, that feels authentic, and then you respond really well to them. And I've been lucky enough to know some writers like that, and Anna is definitely one of them.
Yeah, Rob, what I love about working with Rob is like he has such a diverse musical interest. And he's somebody who's just like really, really into music. Like if I throw out a reference, he knows what it is. He knows how to like what I'm talking about when I'm like, we should steal something from this. And like, he is somebody who is quite detail oriented, and like it shows so much in his orchestration. Like that's like another aspect of what he does. He does these banging orchestrations that are so gorgeous, and he's been doing a lot of work just in his home studio, and I'm like, holy moly, like it's incredible quality, and it's so rich, and I kind of feel like it represents Rob Rokicki in a way.
Yeah, well, it's so special to find a collaboration like that. So I'm glad the two of you have found each other and get to work together. And you both have significant staged work experience under your belts, like we talked about with your reels. So can you tell us what's new and different about bringing a musical to the screen versus the stage?
Yeah, I mean, Anna can speak probably more specifically because she's, deep into the, even the layout of a screenplay is just so unique in how it has to kind of look, in the rules of formatting, just that. But a story is a story, but a musical, it presents itself, as kind of larger than life. And on a stage, you can get away with things that I think are more metaphoric, and a camera makes things very realistic. And like, how do you reconcile the two? So there's a bit of stripping away a bit for film or subtleness that you can play with, that would be lost on a stage, right? The character doing something very intimate or very subtle. So you gain a lot because of that, but you also lose some of the kind of surrealness that you get from being able to stage, or just having a million people all at stage at once, and we just can isolate with light. You have to come up with a whole new vernacular of how you're going to tell stories like that. It's such a visual medium, film, obviously. So it also compresses story in a really cool way. And I think we've found that, as we work with Alex, that's like our director, it's a whole other component of how songs are constructed, how scenes work in and out of dialogue, how there's going to be more underscoring, I'm definitely feeling, in this movie than there would probably be in the stage version, because it's continuous,
And definitely writing a movie musical is its own beast. Like when you have a song just for the stage, you have lyrics and you have music. And lyrics are often dealing with everything that the character is consciously thinking or wanting to articulate, like what's going on narratively. And then the music fills out all of the subtext. So like musical theater songs already fill out a lot of information. Like they're not usually terribly subtle because of that. And then if you take a song like that and you put it on top of big images, it leaves like nothing to the imagination. You're just kind of like throttled with information. It's like whatever the writer's point of view is, it's like rammed down the throat of the person consuming it. And, Rob and I are both people who our sensibilities skew towards like subtlety and nuance. So a big part of the process has been figuring out how we want to use song in a way that doesn't duplicate what's being shown visually on film. And so, we'll tell you a little bit about the plot in a moment, but I'm not ashamed to say that the television show Catfish has been like a pretty big source of inspiration. And that's a TV show that is inspired, that's produced by MTV. And sort of as we were talking about the score and how to approach the score, conversations around like just like the MTV aesthetic or like video clips, and like how can songs create all of the atmosphere and get the point of each moment across without us feeling like we don't, like with while letting all of the imagery, all of the visual storytelling still lead the viewer through the experience of the film. And Rob's really problem solved that in a really effective way, I think.
We're trying. We're trying.
Yeah, go.
I was just gonna say it's that the thing that's always hard, I think, in a movie musical is diegesis, right? The diegeticness of like what is the song that's in the world of the story and what is like outside of it, or like what is happening in someone's head versus what is happening in context when someone sings. You know, some movies, like completely in movie musicals, will just say, well, like in Cabaret, for example, the movie musical of Cabaret, only the songs happen in the club, and it's much more like a play, but with music, you know. And then there's other movie musicals like Little Shop of Horrors where people are singing and it's just the reality of the situation. So we kind of do a little bit of both, but it's another element that you don't have to contend with necessarily in a stage play that you definitely are thinking a lot about in a movie musical.
Gotcha. Yeah, right. I've never even. I just, you know, you watch these things and you really just experience it as an audience member. So it's super interesting hearing all the, you know, all the dimensions of thought that go into that go into it and how that applies differently from theater to stage.
I was a film major in college, so I was kind of nerding out over that conversation. I really enjoyed that. But I think that's something that we never necessarily talked about, was musicals and how you approach that and how that's just like a completely different genre. So that was really illuminating. Thank you.
Yeah, now I'm excited to hear, you know, as promised, about the plot. What's the Real Gemma Jordan about? And I'm saying it right, Gemma Jordan, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a show about a young woman. It's set just what we imagine to be just recently post-pandemic. Who knows when that will be? But yes,
2030.
Hopefully not. In Lincoln, Nebraska. And it's centered on this young, early 20-year-old woman, Gemma, who has kind of become very isolated. You know, the pandemic has played a role in that, but then also she's had this family tragedy. She's lost her father recently, like a year ago, and she lives with her mom, Kathy, in their home, and she doesn't really have a lot of like deep connection with the people around her, and a lot of how she communicates is online. She at the same time is trying to become more of an influencer online, and she's trying to build a brand, and she catches a break and thinks she's sort of turning a corner in her life, and then discovers that somebody has been impersonating not only her online, but her entire inner circle of friends and family, including her father, who has passed away. And it flips a switch in her, and she decides to go after this person and figure out who they are. But not only that, like find them and have a face-to-face conversation with them to make them account for what they've done. And in that process, she connects with a young man called Sam, who lives in Hastings, conveniently.
You know, us Nebraskans just catfishing all day long.
All day long.
People think we're just tractors, but there's also catfishing involved too.
And he has thought that he's been in a relationship with Gemma for a whole year. But he hasn't been. And so they embark on this cross-country road trip to find this mystery people or person who is responsible for injuring Gemma. And I won't say anything else because we want people to watch the movie.
And I didn't before I lose this thought, but do you know, like, is there a way that people can see it anytime soon, or is that they'll just have to keep following you on social media and stuff for that?
Well, the goal is to film in August this year. So we're recording with the students in the next few weeks, in the next like 2 or 3 weeks. And then we will be filming this summer. Then there will be a lot of like post-production, as it's called, you know, editing, making the score right, matching all this stuff. And hopefully this winter we're going to do a screening. So we'll look forward to that. So yeah. And it's interesting. I just sent Anna an article this morning, but it's wild. Wired has an article this morning, literally about the world's, or like the first kind of catfish, and like how it's kind of permeated society for hundreds of years. Like, but with this one tale though, there's an actual book called The Catfish from 1913, which I didn't know about somebody impersonating someone else. But I could only, and I was just thinking this morning, I was like, oh my gosh, during COVID, how many people are pretending to be someone else online? There's this level of anonymity that no one is really, you know, being real with each other. I don't think, because we're all over these Zoom conversations. So like, who knows what, you know, our whole fabric of reality is kind of shifting a little bit. So hopefully I'm looking forward to having more real face-to-face conversation.
I'm looking forward to it, and I also feel like weird and awkward about it.
Like it re-engaging.
Yeah, it's going to be exhausting. I think, you know, our kind of threshold for being able to handle socialization, you know, it's like a, you know, it's a skill like any other skill, and they can atrophy a bit. So it's just going to get back on the horse of the 5 or 10 minutes hanging out with some friends, and then okay.
Yeah, it's almost like relearning.
Yeah.
So with this, where did the idea then of Gemma come? And like, and this was it just, is this just something, you know, you're sitting on the train and then this elaborate catfish plot drops in your head, or was there like something that inspired?
It came from me. It's a story I'd been sitting on for a long time and wanting to explore. I'm somebody who writes a lot about identity and confusion of identity and what is authenticity. And I have just been, not just during the pandemic, but like in the years, you know, prior to the pandemic, just being really worried actually about how social media and the way that we interact online is impacting people, you know, emotionally and psychologically, and their ability to connect. It's something that consumes me a lot. And just like the way that it can be hard to differentiate between reality and not reality sometimes in those contexts. I'm Australian, I think I mentioned that before. And there's something cultural about Australians where I feel that we're a lot more straightforward and blunt than Americans, and generally what you see is what you get. And I'm very hung up on this idea of like black and white, true and not true, real and not real. And the way that people have been interacting over the past few years has really like blown that way of thinking out of the water. And you know, like for me it really was an opportunity to dive into those themes and also write the type of characters that I love, which is, you know, contemporary, female-centered characters. And I took it to Rob, and Rob was like, this is not like the stuff I'm usually working on.
But she sold me on it, and it was, and I think, you know, because she was so passionate about it, and I was, you know, passionate about working with Anna, I was just like, yeah, I mean, if this is, and it took me a while to kind of find my way into it, quite honestly, just like of what the sound of the thing would be. Mm-hmm. And I think once I kind of cracked a song, I wrote a lot of like ideas of songs that I would send to Anna that she'd be like, no, I would scrap it. but that's what you need. You need to kind of trial and error it out of just like, what is this it? Is this it? You know, because I mean, I try to be as you know, not precious about stuff, right? Whereas like if something's not working, I'll throw it out. But I think there is a moment where we were talking about this scene with our protagonist, and I wrote there was this random scene, and I ended up writing this song about something that I would have never written about in a million years, and it's now one of my favorite songs. So that was worth it in and of itself. But that helped open up the rest of the world of like, how the heck does this thing sound? Because I think every show has kind of a, even though I play with genre a bit, you know, there's kind of a world of this. So I think in terms a little bit of orchestrationally too, of how to get into somebody's head.
Yeah, there was definitely like a journey of like, when you think influencer, I think a lot of people roll their eyes, particularly like people maybe of Rob and my generation, like there's some eye rolling going on, like, you know, these.
But they make money.
They make money,
Yeah.
but like there's also like there's thought, like they're people, like they're
Yeah.
three-dimensional people,
They're
and
people.
You know, when you think about like a movie musical influences, I think automatically it's hard not to go to a place of, well, it's going to be stupid and or campy, or we're just going to make fun of that community of people. And so we were towing this really sort of fragile line tonally of wanting it to be funny, and being able to like honor the humor of some of these types of characters, but also give, especially Gemma and the other two principal characters of Sam and the third character, who I won't say that character's name, like as much dimension as possible, and flesh them out and show like who these people really are behind their avatars. And so it took us a while to like, I remember having a conversation with Rob where we were talking about the opening number and about how our goal was not to make Gemma seem stupid, but passionate. Like,
Right.
just like her obsession with buying products that are actually organic and just don't market themselves as organic. And I'm talking cosmetic products that comes from a place of deep passion that like maybe a scientist would take to their work, as opposed to somebody who's vacuous and hung up on superficial things. It took us like a while to like really like flesh out the characters in that way.
I think listening to you talk about the plot too, it sounds very much in line with that ordinary people doing extraordinary things that you kind of talked about earlier. And I think that yeah.
But what I love about Anna's characters is like I think you make assumptions about them or their world, and then that kind of, you're faced with that assumption, and it kind of rips up that open, and you see the human in there, which I think took me a bit to get into, but then once I did it, I was like, oh yes, now I get it. But yeah, it was a bit of a learning curve.
Well, I'm excited when I see it to learn too, because I definitely am completely with you there. Like, you know, at least, well, we were talking about this right before, but you know, before COVID, I was like, oh, I don't want to go on TikTok. It's just a bunch of people like trying to create an identity for themselves and everything, and kind of come to appreciate as a viewer these people in a way who have helped me through COVID, through whether it's humor or there's some people you follow and you get really engrossed in who they are, and they'll step out of their character a bit sometimes and talk about something they're really passionate about. I think that was really instrumental this last summer with the social justice movement, seeing who and people that everyday people had already bought into, talking about those things. So I think it is super accessible, and I think it's awesome that you guys are writing that story about it. But for these last couple questions, I know Jane's gonna dip out for a sec, and I want to bring in one of the UNL actors you've been working with on the project, Haley Shoemaker, who I adore, and who's playing India in the Real Gemma Jordan. So, hi Haley.
Hello.
It's so great. I know Haley. I was in the same studio as her when I was in my undergrad. So I love Haley to death, and I'm super excited that you guys are working with her. Oh, what'd you say? Sorry.
I love you too, Ryan.
Oh, thank you, Haley. You just have to come hang out now that we're vaccinated. So, okay, so kicking things off, Haley, can you explain who your character is in the Real Gemma Jordan and what their kind of like function in the show is?
Sure. As you said before, I play India. And India is an influencer based out of LA. She's originally from Lincoln. And so that's how she and Gemma and her are friends. And so that's how they know each other. So she lives in LA with her boyfriend, Hugh. And I think we kind of see that she's pretty successful at being an influencer. So she's, I think, in the beginning, kind of trying to be a mentor to Gemma and help Gemma become more successful. But I think as the story continues, you start to figure out that India's maybe more of a frenemy rather than a friend. And she's a great character. I love her.
Well, I think it just sounds totally like you know, California influencer, frenemy. No, I'm just kidding. Probably more like me, right, Haley?
No, I'm actually... Anna was talking about her show before that takes place in rural Kansas, and I'm originally from like small town rural Kansas, so that struck a chord.
Yeah, she's pitching herself for the role, Anna.
Well, you know.
I'm just kidding. So Haley, what's it like originating a role?
So I've originated one role before, but this is the first time that I've gotten to work with the creative team like this early on in the process. So that has just been super cool, like getting to see the evolution of the characters and getting to be a part of the workshop process. You know, this process has been a lot longer, I think, than anything else I've worked on. So just getting to see how India has even changed from the first reading has been so great. And just, I don't know, getting to be a part of of that process has been probably one of the most artistically rewarding things that I've gotten to do.
Well, that's lovely. And I'm so glad that, you know, you get to have that opportunity as a UNL student, because, you know, we haven't had anything like this on campus. So thank you, Rob, Anna, Elisa, for, you know, putting together this. And for everybody, anyone can jump in. What's the process then been like? Both the virtual, you know, with the COVID, that collaboration, and I think more importantly, like the professional academic partnership.
Well, I want to give a shout out to Haley anyway for helping us organize all of this, because I mean, just giving kind of circumstances of just kind of where things happened with, you know, of our show, and we had a director who was sick, so we had to rely a lot on some of the students to kind of keep the show going. And Haley helped organize, gives our rehearsal schedule every week, checks in with everyone. To have that level of care and thought be put into something is very helpful, because it keeps everybody accountable. And we also had a wonderful grad student. His name is Trey, and he is and Daniel. They both have helped with music. I was very curious how that would work, but what they've done is I send tracks, and then the singers record to those tracks, and then Trey and Daniel are able to consolidate those and put them all together, so I can actually hear what the chorus would sound like together. And then I can give notes from there, and then we meet afterwards. We've had some rehearsals. We did some read-throughs, some table reads, and Anna is also an educator. We're both educators, so I think Anna asked really great questions of the students to also create a dialogue, and some of those sessions have been incredibly helpful and helping shape the story. And yeah.
Something that was so beneficial to us in this process is that we did have this concept for this movie musical already when we were sort of embarking on it, but we were able to essentially cast and then write. And so we went through a process where everybody, did some audition takes for us on camera, and Elise compiled them and sent them to us. We cast the roles, and then we started to write to the different students, specific traits or strengths or voice types. And for me, being able to, like, if I was writing something for India, just to be able to think about Haley and think about Haley's intonation and think about her interpretation of that character filled in a lot of blanks for me and made it possible to work on this project at a lightning fast pace. I think Rob and I wrote this piece way faster than I've ever written anything from scratch before. And that was because we had this whole community of student actors supporting us the whole way.
Yeah, a show typically takes anywhere from 3 to 5 years, sometimes even longer. And we wrote this in less than a year, maybe 6 months.
Oh, dang.
It's a very fast time, even for a 1 hour or so movie. I think it'll end up being a little over an hour. But it's a lot of work, a lot of plot, a lot of trial and effort. But yeah, I think Anna's right. When you know the characters you're writing for, the actors, you can see them, you can hear them in your head, and it does make things a little easier.
Was there anything fundamentally that changed because of who you cast and meeting them? Or do you think it was just like little bits, like writing something a little bit differently, scratching a line?
There was a couple actors that we just loved, and we were like, there weren't enough roles, but we were just like, we want to include someone in this because we just love them, and we're going to have to feature them in some way, you know what I mean?
That's right. I mean, there wasn't anything written to change.
That's true. Yeah.
So really, I think that, like, whether consciously or subconsciously, knowing who we were writing for was like leading a lot of the creation process. Okay. But yes, like Rob said, we definitely like had a smaller character community, or like featured group of actors to start off with, and it kept getting incrementally larger as we fell in love with more and more people.
Well, I am super excited to see the Real Gemma Jordan when it comes out in December. I'll be looking on UNL channels. I'll be looking on your guys' channels for more information about that. Haley, I hope you assume like you're really tap into your character and be an influencer for the film. And
she should host it.
Yeah. Yes, a live
or
hosting.
like live host it. Yeah.
Live tweet it.
Yes, I definitely think that's a great, because that's exactly what the movie with I'm so bad at actors. The movie where she disappeared and left her son with Anna Kendrick. You guys know what I'm talking about?
A Simple Favor?
Yes, because and what's her name? Blake? Is it Blake?
Lively.
Blake Lively. Yeah, okay. I'm so bad at famous people. But she completely deleted. She archived her entire social media as part of that role and like disappeared. So I definitely think
really?
Yeah. So.
Wow.
Method acting.
Method.
Haley. Yes.
I would love to see India do an Instagram takeover of like UNL's official Instagram.
Yes.
I love it. This is great.
Well, we'll all definitely be looking forward to it, and especially here at the Lead Center. And I just want to say a thank you to all of you, and to Lauren, if you're watching, for putting this all together and for joining us today. We really appreciate everything you guys had to offer, and we'll be excited and we'll be watching. Thank you so much, guys.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Oh, it's just me. Jane. Oh, I can't hear you. Let's see.
Got it.
There we go.
I muted myself.
No worries. Not like we're only like a year and 3 months into the pandemic, so
just, you're muted is kind of the refrain of the last year. But what a great interview.
I know.
That was really. I feel like I learned so much just about like the writing process, about what it takes to turn a musical into film, which I hadn't really considered it being different than just a normal movie, but it really is.
Yeah, I saw on Disney Plus, they came out with I think it's like a Howard Ashman documentary about and him like with that was more animation focused and how he felt like animation could bring the stage to film, and I think that it's just really interesting hearing about like all the different approaches, because he talked about how like animation is like the only way you can really create like these stories and buying into the musical aspect like in a movie. And I loved hearing Anna talk about bringing contemporary characters and then also not pushing what the writer's perspective is on the audience. Because when they were talking about that, I was thinking about I distinctly had in my head On My Own from Les Mis, when she's like backed up against the wall in the pouring rain. And you get so much information, and especially with a show like Les Mis, which you can't change anything about the actual text, the music, and it just commands so much information. So I'm really excited to see the Real Gemma Jordan and have a little bit and have a different experience, different perspective on bringing the stage to the screen.
Well, and how lucky are we to have that at UNL? That this is all happening here.
I know.
What an amazing thing.
Catfish and movie musical. That's Nebraska's and corn, of course. Sorry, and beef. I have to follow the state mottos and everything. All of our designated agricultural products. But of course, now it's time to close out with one of our favorite segments, What We're Watching, so you can tune in on some of the best content the industry has to offer. And if you've enjoyed our conversation on movie musicals today, then you need to add The Prom to your list on Netflix. The film, based on the hit Broadway musical, came out last December. And as someone who has seen The Prom on Broadway several times, I thought it was an excellent rendition. The cast
so jealous.
Yes. I saw it because I was so lucky. I had this internship where and so we got to take kids to shows, and so I saw a lot of shows. But Meryl Streep, James Corden, Nicole Kidman, Keegan-Michael Key, Kerry Washington, Kevin Chamberlain, and Nebraska's own Andrew Rannells. So inspired by a true story, the film hilariously and heartwarmingly tells the story of two young women who just want to dance together. This is a must-see for all musical buffs, so check it out and let me know what you think.
So I still have not watched The Prom. I have to put that on my list. I haven't done it yet. I know. So I'm putting it on my list. I'm going to have to do it this weekend to make it a priority, because I still haven't seen it. But I'm actually going to share something that I'm really excited to watch rather than what I am watching. This weekend, the Lead Center is offering a free virtual presentation of a brand new work by acclaimed multimedia dance artist, Michelle Ellsworth. Yeah, so Michelle is a Guggenheim Fellow who incorporates science, architecture, and humanities into her work to create truly transdisciplinary pieces. And having talked with her about her work and her process while planning education events these past few weeks, I can say that I'm so excited to see what she creates for us, and that it will definitely be unlike anything you've seen before. And there's a post-show conversation with Michelle and Jesse Fleming, who is a professor in our Emerging Media Arts program, and the head of UNL Dance, Susan Orida. So mark your calendars for this unique experience on Saturday, April 10th at 7:30 p.m. And it's free. And now I know I mentioned that already, but free virtual event.
Yes, and virtual's coming to an end soon, so you got to catch all these. Yes. But if you enjoyed spending time with us today, we encourage you to donate to the Lead Center Ovation campaign to ensure arts and programming like this remain an essential part of the Lincoln community. You can find the donation link on our website. And that just about wraps up this episode of Lunch and Learn. We'll be back with a new special episode with some student performers on Tuesday, May 4th. So keep an eye on Facebook and be sure to mark your calendars.
Yes, and a special thanks to Stephen Colonna in the virtual control room, Kelly Inquist, Lauren Durbin, Ellie Feiss, Quinn Sledens, and Matthew Boring in marketing, and Sasha Dobson in the education department. This series would not be possible without their support and hard work. And before we go, again, with continuing the movie musical theme, we have a new trailer for the upcoming film In the Heights, which is based off of Lin-Manuel Miranda's hit 2008 musical. So stay tuned to the stream for some Lin tunes and keep your fingers crossed for full theaters when the film is released in June. Until next time, Lunch and Learners.
Once upon a time, in a faraway land called Washington Heights. Say it so it doesn't disappear.
Washington Heights!
Lights up on Washington Heights, up at the break of day. I wake up and I got this little punk I gotta chase away. Pop the grate at the crack of dawn, sing while I wipe down the awning.
Hey, y'all, good morning.
Ice cold piragua, cherry, strawberry, and just for today, I got my mate.
Story of a block that was disappearing.
The genius is back!
Yo, here's your chance. Ask her out right now.
Hey!
There's something on your shirt.
Smooth operator, all damn.
We all had a sueñito. And when it came to dreams, we had to keep scraping by.
Maybe this neighborhood's changing forever. Maybe tonight is our last night together, however.
I just want to see the whole world through her eyes.
They're talking about kicking out all the dreamers. It's time to make some noise.
We had to assert our dignity in small ways. Little details that tell the world we are not invisible.
This is the moment when you do better than me. Because you can see a future that I can't.
But we go, we rap for people, and if we go.
You made all of this?
This is me.
They used to say, if you work hard, you live by the rules, the money will come, the things will come.
You ready?
I've been saving up all my pennies in my piggy bank for this day.
Today's all we got, so we cannot stop. This is our block.
In the heights, I hang my flag on display.
Cheers.
It reminds me that I came from miles away.
This is crazy.
From miles to the heights.
The best days of my life. And I built my little dream, my sueñito.
In the heights,
the late nights, you taste beans.
Here.
The sun of a shade ice.
In Washington Heights.
Like the street lights. We're taking the flight to a couple of days in the life for what it's like in Washington Heights.